戦争は変わった。一つの時代が終わり、俺たちの戦争は終わった。
War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine. War has changed. Verified soldiers carry algorithmic arms, manipulate social influence, AI enhance and regulate their timelines. Memetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. War has changed. The age of deterrence has become the age of control, all in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction. And he who controls the battlefield controls history. War has changed. And when the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine.
Think outside the cage.
You're listening to Canary Crime News Talk. I don't know if that music played. Are we going, Gons?
We are. For some reason, the audio file is gone. The audio file that's
file
supposed to play that intro music did not work, and it's gone. I'm looking in the file here.
Well, you're listening to Canary Crime News Talk. Today is March 9th, 2026. We are live on episode 921, and today, heads down, hands up. Signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy, Basil, and you are not crazy.
Oh, thank goodness. My name is Gons, at Face Like the Sun, director of the Age of Deceit films and author of Archetypalism, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ. Live to tape from the metaverse to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious, but the well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. I don't know what's happening. Something, my entire music jingle board just everything's gone. What happened?
The Iranians. It's the cyber attack.
Oh, they hacked us. Yeah,
that's what it was. They hacked you.
Let's see if this works. It is a Monday.
Gary, what day is it? Monday.
Good thing I have a backup of some of this stuff. Yeah, that's right, Iranian hackers. I'm ready for you.
Nice try.
Yeah, nice try. Okay, well, here we are. It's Monday. It's the 9th. The war is ongoing, but maybe over, but not really. And we're here. We made it. We made it through the weekend, Basil. The world was about to blow up over the weekend, according to people on the internet.
A rocky start and a rocky weekend. The PsyOps are in full effect. And, you might think, well, yes, of course, the PsyOps are always in full effect. But it's even more fun around these, I don't know if it's the time of year. I don't know if it's the season. We just had, what was it? Daylight savings time. So maybe that, is a very special, ritual of the year that sends things totally sideways. But we have just an amazing display. And, I love it. This is our passion, is watching the PsyOps fly by, being able to call plays before they happen. If we were different kinds of fellas, we would monetize this in one way or another, whether it's, with advertising or maybe just laying it all on the line on Polymarket, because goodness gracious. Very exciting weekend, at least for the minds of the public. But before we jump all the way in, I think it's good to kind of set the stage, Gons. It's good to set the stage. because we know that there's a spiritual war also going on around us, and we know that groups all over the world, exact their will upon the minds of men in all sorts of different ways, rituals, spellcraft, ceremony. And this whole Iranian thing started off with a very fascinating display by the Iranian government, you'll remember, which was the burning of the Baal statues, burning of the Baal. Yes,
I got
we'll remember.
corrected the other day. I was talking to some people about it, and they said Baal. It's
I
Baal. I
know.
was like, okay, all right, Baal,
I know.
Baal.
It's funny because, like, I mean, of course, our people have talked about Baal or Baal forever, but now that Baal is like a mainstream character now, because the Epstein files and Iran is like suddenly everybody's an expert on ancient Sumerian gods, and just love to, and they're getting it from their favorite podcaster, their favorite TikToker, their whatever. So now everybody is just like not only an expert on ancient Sumerian gods, but also the pronunciation of ancient Sumerian language.
Yeah, everyone's an ancient Near East expert, linguistic expert all of a sudden. It's awesome. I love it.
Is it Baal? Is it Baal? Is it Baal? What is it? It's all the same. I mean, there is some sort of metaphor here because of course we know Baal as a character, like many of the ancient gods, went by many names.
Yeah.
You could go down the list of like 1,000 different names.
Cloud Rider, even there's a whole bunch of different descriptions.
All sorts of different names. So it stands to reason that in modern day, everybody would have a different way to pronounce Baal's name. Baal just sounds weird. I don't know. Baal. We've always said Baal.
I've always said Baal. Yeah, I've always said Baal. I don't know. It's sort of the tomato thing, but
it doesn't matter. But it's very exciting. We remember the government-sponsored Baal burnings a few weeks ago before the war really kicked off, and you got to pay attention to these sort of rituals, especially when the mainstream likes to report on them. I want to give a thanks to producer Mike, who sent this to us before I even saw it fly by on the timeline. So thank you, Mike. The Mexico Daily Post is reporting. Whoops, what is it reporting? You tell me.
Protest outside the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. Activists demand an end to the conflict in the Middle East.
Burn it all.
Yay.
Burn it all. They got their own Baal burning ritual going on.
They burned it before the war. Now they're burning it to end the war. It's very effective.
Yeah, very effective. And the image here looks very dramatic. Another Baal-looking, bull-looking statue type thing burning. I'll show you a little bit more of it in a second here. But it says in the article, at least 60 activists and members of the Iranian community set fire to an effigy of the Semitic god Baal near the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City on Saturday. This act, accompanied by prayers.
Interesting phrasing there, because on the previous Baal burnings, the mainstream, while they did, do little sections on, a paragraph or two on who Baal is, I don't remember Baal being described as a Semitic god Baal. Now, this is coming from Mexico Daily Post. There might be some, I don't know, translation or cultural things there. Not that Semitic is the wrong word, but it is a word that at least the American mainstream doesn't like to use. Now, the Iranians themselves, of course, drawing close
proximity or
comparisons, close comparisons, right? Because of course, to the colloquial American, you say Semitic and you automatically think Jewish. Now, Semites are not just Jews; they are the people of that entire region. But so in the context of strictly a what's the word? Protest, I guess, or a ritual outside of an American embassy specifically. This particular Baal statue, I did not see if it had, a Star of David or a picture of Netanyahu or Trump on it. It burned pretty good. We'll see why it burned much better than the previous ones. But sorry, you can continue with the article.
Okay, the article continues. This act, accompanied by prayers aimed to demand an end to the war in the Middle East. Among cardboard cutouts of U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the protesters gathered starting at 11 a.m. in the Miguel Hidalgo Hidalgo Borough, I just skipped the line, of Mexico City to, quote, repudiate the illegal war waged by Israel and the United States. Yeah, the illegal war against the Islamic Republic, according to their signs. Since the protest was called, the organizers, mostly Iranian, had warned of the burning of the Semitic god Baal, as has occurred in protests in Tehran, the capital of Iran, as a political symbol against Israel. And there you go. I mean, we can keep going here. There's not. They just kind of recap the whole situation here. Now, again, the image, the picture is very dramatic. You have the Baal bull looking thing burning, but I did find some video footage of this, Basil. And there's a little bit because the Baal from the Iranians, the government sponsored Iranian burning of Baal was the effigy was very large. It was very dramatic,
very detailed.
It had that sort of Burning Man effect where you got the big smoke blowing. It's the whole thing. This one's a little bit less dramatic. Let's take a look at the video for those of you watching. We'll describe it for the audio listeners. Right, here they are. They're out. They're spraying it with lighter fluid. There goes a piece of it down.
A lot smaller.
A lot smaller, Basil.
A lot smaller, not even in comparison to the Iranian government Baal, but a lot smaller than the perspective you get even in the headline image of this article. Once you get, some people in the image, this thing's probably about 6 feet tall. And, look, whenever someone is making or constructing something around the world, it's been this way for thousands and thousands of years, you are limited by the resources that are available in the area in which you are building. That's why some houses are made of adobo or stucco, some are made of wood. In this case, it looks like perhaps there was a piñata shop that had some extra time on their hands. And of course, piñata artists are a big part of Mexican culture. And I think that's exactly what happened here. It almost looks like a repurposed piñata. Maybe they took a piñata from the piñata store. They got it kind of upgraded, got some bigger horns on it. But it
looks like they wrapped it with some gold and silver tinfoil to give it a little more of a opulent effect or something, because the fire is burning right through that gold layer. And it looks like they just propped it on top of a cardboard box.
The squirt bottle that she is squirting the fluid,
lighter fluid, yeah.
It looks like the squirt bottle you see, like if you go to a taco truck or if you go to like any food truck, really, and they have that kind of clear ketchup bottle that they use to spray the grease on the on the cooking surface there. And so it looks like kitchen grade I guess grease launcher she has there.
Listen, it's not the materials, it's the message, okay? It's the message. It's going out there. These people are angry.
The message
end the war.
And it looks like they actually did have the obelisk as well standing next.
Yeah,
so they, the ritual is complete. It had the Baal, it had the obelisk. It does look like, at least in this video, that somebody pretty quickly runs in with a fire extinguisher.
Yes, that's how the clip ends. The guy walks in with a fire extinguisher, knocks the whole thing over. The blast from the fire extinguisher knocked the whole apparatus.
It burns quickly, okay? Piñatas burn much quicker than whatever they used in Iran. So
I hope they took the candy out.
Now, we of course have. They took the candy out. Was there candy? There should have been candy in there.
It would have been better if there was. Yeah, just to make the point. The Epstein, the Epstein stuff with the.
Oh yeah. That's also be a nice message, against sort of unhealthy food, the sugar causing so many problems, the synthetic coloring in candy.
Look at that. We read way too far.
Multi-purpose ritual. Um, and we have fun with this sort of thing, but we are actually seriously very aware of the spiritual emphasis that this war has always had. Not even just, I mean, for us, of course, who see everything in the lens of the broader spiritual context, the spiritual war. These things are not nothing. They are very effective. Another word for that, as far as our government is concerned, is fifth generation warfare. It is sort of
Yes.
the invisible. That's kind of like the worldly counterfeit. The world's counterfeit of spiritual warfare is this fifth generation warfare. But we've documented how this particular war is sort of officially, not even just by Iranian heads of state, which, look, Iranian heads of state calling it a jihad is, that's expected. That's very common. But also documenting the American government, or at least members of the American government, specifically calling this a religious war, putting it in
Right.
context, which has been in line with what we've seen the past 6 years, or I guess 6 years, with all the wars going on, inevitably getting put in the context of a religious war. Putin with Ukraine, Netanyahu and Gaza, and of course now with Iran. But the thing that always trips us out is it's no longer like a fringe Christian podcast view to take of these things. It's become more mainstream than even mainstream itself.
Yep. And to understand that point, let's take a quick look at what Tucker Carlson posted yesterday.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. Evil people do evil things purely for the dark joy of being evil. Evil. Go eat each other. That's the Tucker Carlson program.
Did he get ghosts eat each other in there? Go eat each other.
Yeah, great jingle there. I think it was by Jonathan F. there. But yeah, Tucker Carlson yesterday posted, March 8th, has 5.5 million views. Pray that the spell breaks and the world is saved. Now, listen, the work of Christ on the cross, I believe, broke the spell in a sense. And maybe that's what he means, this grandeur, cosmic type of situation. But I think most people are taking this as hey, let's end the war with Iran, the whole, the negative stuff that we're doing, all the bombs and, the blowing up and the warfare and all that. But it does reflect the current milieu of the people that are paying attention, I suppose, that they're saying that, hey, we're in this spiritual war. I'm seeing a lot of people mention that this is beyond just political now. It's spiritual. And they're not wrong. But the point is, it's always been spiritual. As far as we've been concerned, we've been pointing out this spiritual tension for forever, for as long as we've existed. And then, of course, you look at the Bible, and the Bible outlines that it was always a spiritual battle from the beginning. 1 John 4 talks about how the spirit of Antichrist has been at work since the beginning. So we know that this is an ancient cosmic situation. And, Tucker Carlson, we've looked at his sort of history and background when it comes to his father and his role in the CIA and all this stuff. And it's all the CIA guys coming out telling us how spiritual everything is too.
Well, that's kind of the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the CIA podcasters are the ones who've really popularized this very maybe not even popularized is the right word, maybe normalized the talk in these terms of spiritual war, things like this, which, I'm not going to say is necessarily a bad thing. It is always suspicious when the CIA podcasters succeed in
they leapt over us long ago, Bass. I was thinking, when did the Sean Ryan podcast officially pass us? Did it take them a couple days?
Well,
was it a couple weeks?
Or
when it comes to total downloads or something, because we're in the millions, when it comes to total downloads and whatever. So it's how long did it take them to push it past the 3 million downloads?
Regardless of their numbers, yes, they've been very effective at normalizing the sort of spiritual talk. Now, putting into context Tucker's whole thing for the past, however much time, he's probably saying something, about elites and
Yeah.
probably Israel, probably, he's probably even referring to it in the context in which we would have put everything in. But it's not a big deal when you see the big names like that putting it into context. And among the events of the burning of another Baal statue, Tucker Carlson calling to break the spell, we actually do have some pretty breaking news.
Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, this is I guess this is World War III talk, is it not? Yeah.
World War III. We can fight the Third World War down there.
And of course, it has to do with Trump's new age here.
We will launch a new age.
CNBC, this is breaking. We included this just because this hit the timeline right before we went live here. Trump says Iran, quote, war is very complete. Talks to Putin, reports. We have a video report here that we're going to play for you guys. Let's see what they say here. Hold on one second.
We're getting some breaking news out of D.C. Our Eamon Jabbers has the very latest for us. Eamon, over to you.
Frank, you guys have been highlighting that all major averages have now turned positive, and the reason for that appears to be a social media post by CBS News. Their reporter Weijia Jiang has just posted that she's been on the phone with President Trump this afternoon. She says, in a phone interview, President Trump told me the war could be over soon. Quote, I think the war is very complete, pretty much. They have no Navy, no communications. They've got no Air Force. He added that the U.S. is very
real quick.
4 to 5 weeks.
Yes.
Stop. We have Trump live right now.
Oh, okay.
And he's just walking up to the podium. I'm putting the link below our things here. There you go.
I like this. Breaking, huh?
It's opening up now. Looks like I don't know what to call this. Is this right? No, sorry. This is the wrong one. Dang it. Apologize.
College Sports Roundtable.
No. Get out of there. Go back to the thing. I'll get the right thing.
Okay.
People are saying that Trump is live now. And
here, I think I found it here. This must be it. Let's see. Give me a second here. He's talking.
We're bringing, if you go back into the last period, I would say, I think it's 2.5 months, 1.7% inflation. 3 months, 1.45% inflation. Think of that.
He's talking about
whereas
inflation.
They had the highest inflation in the history, the single highest inflation in the history of the country. Now, I always say this. They say 48 years because
okay, so he's talking about inflation.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see what exactly. We don't want to miss. This is the problem doing this show when we do is almost always is something huge happening. I mean, not always when we do the show, something is huge happening, but whenever something huge happens, we're also doing the show. So we got to try to catch it live. If he starts saying like, we've done it, the war is over, we now own Iran and or whatever. Now we're going to war with China. That's what we want to catch. We'll keep an eye on that.
Or Mexico. Mexico, you're next. You better comply. Right. Let's go back to this Trump to CBS. This broke right before. This was let's just get to it.
Interview, President Trump told me the war could be over soon. Quote, I think the war is very complete, pretty much. They have no Navy, no communications. They've got no Air Force. He added that the U.S. is very far ahead of its initial 4 to 5 week estimated time frame. That post from Weijia Jiang of CBS News based on her conversation with President Trump a short time ago. And that comment that the war could be over soon, the war is very complete, pretty much, says the President of the United States to CBS. I think that is a clear rhetorical shift for Trump in the most recent days of this war. What he has said over the weekend was he's prepared to do whatever it takes. This will go on as long as it takes to complete the mission. Now, a very different signal here from the president. That's possibly being read by market participants as something bullish for the market, given all the concerns about the Strait of Hormuz, oil prices, and the like. It's going to leave a lot of open questions, Frank. How will the president extricate himself from the war if that's the direction he intends to go? And what will the Iranians do? Will they, in fact, allow traffic to continue in the Strait of Hormuz, or will they continue to keep it under siege in order to put pressure on the U.S. administration? And then what's the impact?
Very complete.
That will now be headed
by
he just goes
Ayatollah.
Goes on and on.
It's very complete, Gons. Just this morning,
Pretty much. Pretty
Trump
much. Very
saying
complete.
it's very complete, pretty much. It's interesting because some other things are kind of happening at the same time.
Yeah, I'm seeing reports that he's making threats to Iran again to not do anything with the Straits of Hormuz there. So there's
don't do it. Keep it going, right? Now,
Yeah.
when it comes to Trump, when he says, at least to me, when I hear it's very complete, pretty much, that doesn't necessarily communicate to me maybe exactly what he's trying to communicate. Look, could it be very complete? I don't know. Probably not, but what's certain is that he needed to do something because the
oil
economic
prices were going out of control. The markets wiped out nearly $1 trillion this morning. This could be just some verbiage to ensure a little bit of calm in the markets because people were freaking out this morning.
Yeah.
And, because we're on top of it, people on X and stuff, we're seeing stuff unfold real time. The rest of the world, they're still behind, right? We are the leading indicator. The world is a trailing indicator. They see stuff after the fact. So they wake up this morning, they see markets tanking. They see a barrel of oil hit $110 and they're freaking out. But Trump had to do something. And maybe this is a way to kind of ease a little bit of the anxiety out there, but the war will continue. It's not.
Yeah, well, and it worked too. The point is, it basically worked. After this was aired on CBS, oil prices, got a little bit more reasonable for a second. Things responded very positively this morning, at least in Bitcoin and oil and stuff like that.
Right.
But one thing that is sort of concomitant with the ending of the war is who's gonna be the new supreme leader, or if this truly is regime change. Of course, remember Trump, like he did with Venezuela, he's specifically, says this is not a regime change war. Now, of course, every war, whether it is or isn't a regime change war, they always say it's not a regime change war. But today, let's see, I think this was yesterday, actually. They decided on their new supreme leader, the newest supreme leader. Here's a little clip from Fox.
Right now, growing questions about the future of Iran as the terror regime names the Ayatollah's son as its new supreme leader. He's a hardline cleric, widely considered more radical than his dad.
President Trump warning, quote, he's going to have to get approval from us. If he doesn't get approval from us, he's not going to last long.
Oh, okay. So still threats. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the thing. There's an interesting way to look at this because, of course, at the same time, Trump saying, it's pretty much all done. They have selected a new supreme leader. It is the son of the old one. Interesting history. The previous Komeni, he has said explicitly that he didn't want his son to be the next supreme leader. Now, whether this is just PR or what, I have no idea. Maybe Iranian Game of Thrones, who knows? But he is on record previously saying, no, I don't want my son to be the next supreme leader because, this shouldn't be a dynastic, like family nepotism thing, basically. Again, what that means to them, I'm not really sure. But this fella, Motaba Komeni, he's the son of Ali Komeni. He's 56 years old. This is what Fox lists out here. He's never held political office. He's appointed by Assembly of Experts. I wonder how many of the Assembly of Experts are still alive, because there was 88 until they got
Maybe it's
bombed.
just the AI that's lives on.
Could
These
be.
experts live on. Yeah.
Says here he's still a hardline cleric with deep IRGC ties. Yeah, defies U.S. warning. Trump has called him unacceptable. All right, I don't know when he called him unacceptable, but the impression that we're being given is like, oh, he's the bad guy. He's a bad guy. Maybe he's probably even worse than the last guy, which this is what they're saying on Fox. I find entertaining, because it's exactly what Trump has said about this guy, and specifically what Trump said about whoever the new supreme leader is. He says, we don't want them to be worse than the last guy. But what does worse mean to Trump? You got to remember with Venezuela, and look, folks, oh, geez, I can already see the emails. Just to be clear, I'm going to say some things that are factual. And just because something is true doesn't mean that I support the war or that I, am a Trump lover.
Support
Okay.
Trump. Yeah.
I wouldn't think that our people would need to hear this from me, but apparently some of them do. So just going to start out there. You look at what Trump did with Venezuela, right? Again, that was a little bit more explicitly supposed to be a regime change war, even though, it's, of course, as they always do, says this is not a regime change war. There was a very obvious pro-Trump gal who people thought he was going to put in charge. She gave him her Nobel Peace Prize for doing what he did in Venezuela. And so, a lot of people said, oh, he's going to put her in charge. It even had this sort of like juicy transactional element to it. Like, oh, she gives him her Nobel Prize, then he gets. Here's the thing. There was no regime change in Venezuela whatsoever. It is the exact same regime, he just made the vice president into the president. And they said the exact same thing about the gal when she got put in charge. They said the same thing. She's even worse than Maduro. She's even more hardcore than Maduro. You got to remember, Trump doesn't care about any of that. And I don't mean that in like isn't he a cool guy or whatever. I'm just saying, the whole narrative of who's good and who's bad, you got to remember with all of the most effective elites, they don't have a concept of good and bad in the same way that we do. And Trump's number one sort of priority for pretty much the only thing he cares about for who takes over a country after he does what he does is, do they want to make a deal? Are they willing to make a deal? Are they gonna give us access to what we want? Are they gonna go along with the plan? So the narrative right now with Komeni's son, and he's horrible, and he's even more religious, and blah, 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 that doesn't mean that he's not going to inevitably be the one who takes over. I mean, if he says okay to Trump on the business stuff, then he's in charge.
Well, that's the thing, is that according to Al Jazeera, and I'm looking at a few different places, the reports are all coming out right now about it, is that Trump today, at some point, I don't know, maybe it's during this presser that he's doing now, but according to some reports, Trump is not happy with it. The Fox News report also mentioned it. But let's see some of these quotes here. I think they made a big mistake. I don't know if it's going to last. I think they made a mistake. And then he just said, I'm not going to tell you, when he was asked about the details. He says, I'm not happy with him. These all could be negotiation tactics of like, hey, I know you're the new guy. We're not happy with it, but if you're willing to have a conversation, then, let's talk. You had Lindsey Graham come out and say it's not the change the U.S. was looking for. Graham is quoted on X saying, I believe it's just a matter of time before he meets the same fate as that of his father, one of the most evil men on the planet. So they're continuing on with this narrative. Mark Levin, he's a super pro-Israel guy. I don't know why he pops up on my timeline. I don't like it. But he says, get the boy Komeni. Like, dude, just openly saying, like, let's just kill him. Let's kill the guy.
And that's what we'll see. I mean, they've said the same thing. That was Trump's little thing from last week. We'll just keep killing him. If we don't like him, we'll just keep killing him. So,
but that's the thing. We're gonna kill him. We don't like it. We're not happy with it. But the war is very complete, pretty much. So,
well,
you know what I mean. So it's like, what?
That's
okay.
We don't know
what's
going on in the background. We traced the secret multi-intelligence agency, secret message that went from the IRGC to some unnamed country to the CIA. Like, stuff's going on in the background. But because he's the dude's son and he's just in the same dynasty of control, there's no way that they're going to even hint that he's
right. They got to maintain the optics of
the optics of
the war stuff. Right. So that's, we got to keep in mind that what we say or what we see and what we hear from leaders, world leaders, especially in these tense geopolitical times, got to kind of take it with a grain of salt because
theater.
all of it is
100% theater.
negotiation tactics and all that kind of stuff going on at the geopolitical level. Obviously, there's more stuff probably behind the scenes that we don't even know about, but we can only see what we can see. So there you go. All right. Well,
Speaking of theater, Gons, we had an immaculate display of American security theater. It was so reminiscent. I mean, I can't remember, maybe 12 or something after 9/11. And, you just saw the world change around you. And this weekend was really an excellent display of similar theatrical operations going on, which we're going to get into in a second, right after we thank our executive producers real quick. I don't know if you know this or not, but we're on the value for value model, Gons, which means, of course, no advertisements, no platform partnerships, no corporations whatsoever.
No Komeni money.
No Komeni money, no pallets of cash.
No
nothing.
UAE cash. Yeah, nothing.
We're exclusively supported by people who get value from the show and understand that the show can only survive with y'all, the producers, the listeners, the viewers, put value back in. And that value can take any form. We like to say it's your time, your talent, or your treasure. But the executive producers, they come in, they support the show for $100 or more for any individual episode. And so it's a big day. We want to thank them right here at the top before we really dive in and get lost in the sauce. So I want to start out by thanking executive producer Vince M.
Vince M. Okay.
Vince M. Thank you very much.
You know what? Some of my jingle board is not working, but others are. Okay. So
I will just keep it moving. And if a jingle comes, then that's great. I'll keep it moving. He comes in with a nice round number. And just as a reminder for everybody, if you come in on a nice round number on a 10 or a 5, that's you telling us you prefer we do not share the amount. If you don't mind us sharing the amount, make it some funky number. People put 33 cents on there, 77 cents, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. So thank you, executive producer Vince M. He has a note here that says, I love you guys and pray the Lord continues to prosper you both. Well, amen. Thank you very much.
That. Amen.
We also had executive producer Radu M.
Radu.
Thank
you, Radu.
And Radu, it's always tough with fee structures coming in from around the world. I don't know where these come in, but Radu, I came in for 196.
Did you get stuck in a time loop? What was that? That was a crazy sound that you made.
It's one of those ones I can't tell if he meant a round number because, it's just tough. But thank you very much, executive producer Radu M.
Thank you, Radu M.
We also had executive producer Baroness ARIRL coming in, making the show happen.
Baroness, thank you.
Another nice round number and say, no note. Thanks. Thank you, Baroness.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Of course, we've got executive producer Sir Jamie, who came in, supported the show with his weekly tithe. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Jamie.
And of course, last but not least, we've got executive producer Sir Alex Protocol V2, Baron of the Brian Protocol.
Baron.
Coming in from $100 and 33 cents. Thank you.
Thank you,
468 episodes in a row and a 122 episode executive producer streak. Okay, we're going to jump back into the news here in a second. Remember, there is the rating and review supply drop giveaway. If you haven't done it yet, go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or I know Audible allows ratings and reviews. Go somewhere where you can leave a rating and a review. Leave the rating and a review, screenshot the rating and a review, and then email that screenshot to canarycrysupplydrop@gmail.com. That's canarycrysupplydrop@gmail.com. Sir Ike has a bunch of super duper mega boxes filled with leftover, remaining inventory going back a couple of years of various supply drops. So you'll get some super cool Canary Cry News Talk gear, stuff that will not exist after you own the last one.
Legacy items, exclusive.
Right.
Yeah.
And one last thing before we jump in, I want to give a big shout out to CageRattlerCoffee.com.
Hey, Cage Rattler Coffee. Right. Okay.
Cage Rattler Coffee is a project that supports the show on a regular basis. Canarians just like you got together. They said, we have the skills, we have the know-how. We got to create some GMO-free organic coffee for the Canarians. Canary Cry listeners need an option to support. Well, first, they need to get their coffee. They need to get it nice and clean, and they need to get it of the highest possible quality. And we also need options to not send all of our hard-earned treasure, our gifts from God, to the horrible big corporations that hate us and make crummy coffee. But go to CageRattlerCoffee.com. Beans coming in from all over the world. What's your favorite bean? Nicaragua, Puerto Rico, the Congo, other places? It's amazing. And of course, it's all roasted in extremely small batches by a Canarian for Canarians. Go check it out. They've got their Coffee of the Month Club. You can get the sampler pack to decide whether you like the Nephilim Hunter Dark Roast or the Emu Wrangler Medium Roast better. You know, it's all up to you. You got to try it out. And of course, a portion of every sale comes to support the show.
Cage Rattler Coffee, where value for value never tasted so good.
Thank you, Cage Rattler Coffee. Go get it, folks. It's good stuff.
Yep.
All right. Let's jump back into the news. That was expedient, right? That was a pretty expedient
I don't
section.
think that was very painful. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Let's get back into the news. It's time to dive into the fifth generation warfare, PsyOps.
In fifth generation warfare, part of what I call it is I call it a war of narratives where there's distraction, there's deception, truth, media, propaganda.
PsyOps.
Propaganda. All right. Well, let me give you a little bit of background. You'll remember, if you caught last week's show, you will remember this clip where a reporter asked Hegseth about sleeper cells in America.
Concerns about Iranian sleeper cells and kind of what has the Trump administration been doing to kind of monitor these?
Well, across the interagency, in full coordination, of course, we're paying attention to any potentialities there. This is a former regime, that seeks to export that ideology and try to sow terror. We're ready for that. We've seen these types of folks before, and the American people can rest assured that we're vigilant on that.
Right here. Second, thank you. Kind of a follow up on that last question. There was just this what appears to be a terrorist attack in Austin yesterday. How does that change the operation at all? What effect does that have? And
it doesn't change the operation at all, and I know the authorities are executing exactly the way they should.
We're ready. We're ready for the sleeper cells. No reason to fret. We're, which of course wasn't necessarily the comfort that, even the very fact that sleeper cell stuff came up as a topic showed the kind of anxiety that already exists in a lot of Americans, and of course, especially Americans who lived through 9/11 and that sort of thing. But kind of forcing Pete Hegseth to respond to it, where he confirms that it is a possibility, even if he's saying we're ready for that. What does that even mean? What do you mean you're ready for sleeper cells? But what are you going to catch them after they blow themselves up? It's just not very effective security wise. However, we know that all of this is theater anyways, the PsyOps, the fifth generation warfare. And this weekend, we're going to get into the events of this weekend, but sandwiched between Pete Hegseth's sleeper cell comments last week and a story that dropped this morning. So I don't want to bury the lead. I'm going to give you this report from this morning. But keep in mind, all the events of the weekend were sandwiched between these two reports. this morning. Iran sends out suspected operational trigger to activate sleeper cells abroad after Komeni's death, U.S. officials warn. Now remember, this report just dropped this morning. It says Iran sent out a possible operational trigger to activate sleeper cells abroad after the war with America and Israel began, according to an encrypted message intercepted by the U.S. Even that is kind of obscure, but the coded signal was sent out following the death of Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Komeni on February 28th, with the message appearing to hold instructions for covert operatives or sleeper assets, ABC News reported, citing a federal alert sent to law enforcement agencies. The message could, quote, be intended to activate or provide instructions to pre-position sleeper assets operating outside the originating country, the alert warned. The U.S. warning said intelligence had detected a broadcast station repeatedly transmitting a message to multiple countries outside Iran, according to ABC. So this is not like a signal, app thing. It's one of these broadcast stations. And if you don't know,
1960 radio, like what is this? What kind of
right?
broadcast.
Yeah, that's kind of is how it is. And it's interesting because especially when it comes to like nuclear war, things like this, people monitor it. There's very well-known Russian broadcast stations that just kind of repeat numbers over and over. And it's just, it's kind of analog and old school because it's on like ham radio basically. But it's also very eerie and like very creepy to listen to these things because it's just like a Russian guy repeating numbers over and over, or in this case, an Iranian guy. Quote, while the exact contents of these transmissions cannot currently be determined, the sudden appearance of a new station with international rebroadcast characteristics warrants heightened situational awareness, the memo said. The alert also noted that transmission was intercepted was likely of Iranian origin. And
hold on, didn't they just say, okay, a coded signal went out?
Yes.
That
so
could be covert operatives for sleeper cell. Okay, so they're assuming here, I guess, in this article.
That's the message they're putting out. And remember, they're putting it out today on Monday. This was not something we had before. And they probably are speaking Iranian on the broadcast. It's probably not too hard to detect who's actually doing it. But, we got the news. Remember, it's all about the 5th generation warfare. We had the news articles last week that they had called jihad. And apparently, the past 9 days, they've been monitoring a message station activating sleeper cells for 9 days and just telling it to us today on Monday, March 9th. Now, of course, spooky dooky. Okay, cool. The fact that it's coming out on Monday is a little interesting. I don't know why they wouldn't have done it on Friday, why they wouldn't have done it last week, but we do know that over the weekend was a very exciting weekend for scary events. And one of these events was a plane. It was Southwest Flight 2094. Now, here is a video from Southwest Flight 2094.
At this time, we need everybody to have their heads down and hands up. Heads down, hands up. Heads down, hands up. Heads down, hands up. I need to see everyone's hands. Heads down, hands up. Heads down, hands up. Heads down.
Okay, babe. Okay.
Stand up. Let's go. Everybody heads down. Stand up. Stand up. Heads down. Heads down. Heads down. Stand up. You got me.
Okay.
Riveting
Pretty
footage. That's
spooky.
scary, man. That's spooky.
Spooky, man.
Yeah.
And for those who are just listening, it starts out with a young man holding his phone, trying to film, and then the whole scene goes off. Either the captain or someone, comes over the overhead, and then he has to put his phone down on the ground at that time to comply. And we have this phrase: heads down, hands up. Now, some reporting here, and look, this gets really strange, but remember why we look at these things, because apparently some people have forgotten or are unclear about why we look at these things. The whole point of the show is not just to report on something that happened as if you haven't heard about it, but putting it into the context of the broader fifth generation warfare. Here's a quick written article about it. The headline is "Heads Down, Hands Up. Passengers capture scary moments, Fed storm plane with deal in possible security matter." Passengers
to deal with possible security matter. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Passengers on a flight that made an emergency landing in Atlanta recorded the startling moment federal officers and local cops ran onto their plane to handle what officials called possible security matter. The surreal scene was captured aboard Southwest Flight 2094, which is traveling from Nashville to Fort Lauderdale before being diverted on Friday. Heads down, hands up. A flight attendant could be heard yelling over the loudspeaker. "I need to see everyone's hands. Heads down, hands up." That was heard in a clip recorded by this passenger. I'm going to skip down a couple things here. Details. This is after the social links there, Guns. Details on what caused the flight to make the emergency landing are still hazy, Fox 5 in Atlanta reported. Then they block quote Fox 5 in Atlanta. It remains unclear exactly what the passenger in question did or said to trigger the security response. Officials have not confirmed if any dangerous items were actually found on the aircraft. Additionally, the current status of the detained passenger and whether they face charges has not yet been released by the Atlanta Police Department. And there was a Southwest spokesperson here, says Southwest Airlines Flight 2094 landed safely at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta Airport, International Airport, Friday evening after diverting to respond to a possible security matter, a Southwest spokesperson told the channel. The frightening emergency landing comes a week after, and then they talk about the Austin stabbing. So not a whole lot of details necessarily given. Now, since then, there have been details provided. But before we give what the headline, the mainstream media has been reporting, there was this gal who gave an eyewitness testimony. She recorded it on TikTok. We're going to jump to, it's a 7-minute thing, jump to 4 minutes, Guns. At 4 minutes, she kind of tells the story of I don't know, she is under the impression of what happened or what caused this.
But pretty sure this is right. The person next to the guy who was arrested, the guy who was arrested brought a huge bag onto the plane, which I don't know, I guess is a little weird. And people were asking like, "Hey, what's in your bag?" He wasn't like wanting to say it, and it wouldn't fit under the seat in front of him because it was a carry-on. And he was really mad when the flight attendants took his bag, and he was just like getting agitated at everyone. And the person next to him saw him texting someone like 911, 911, which like don't do that on a plane. And he was just, I don't know exactly what the text said, but I do know that it did say something about 911. But the guy next to him took a picture of his text and showed it to the flight attendant, and that's when all the running around was happening. That's when that guy kept getting up and showing, like, I saw them running around with phones in the air. Southwest didn't really tell us any of this. We kind of had to, like, ask everyone, and a lot of people had things to say about him and saying he was mad, and it was a real threat. Like, he was texting someone, and the whole thing about the precautions, like about searching our bags and all that, I think was in case there was like someone else with him on the plane. And you know, it was really scary when they arrested him. He was like no reaction, like, which
you can kind of end it there. So the way she describes it, and you know, to be clear, she says she doesn't really know. And, you know, she says, you know, they went through the whole thing. And once they were taken off the plane, after the guy was taken off the plane, then the passengers were sort of talking amongst themselves to try to figure out what's going on.
Right.
You know, she claims that the person sitting next to him saw him sending weird texts. There's a claim that somebody took pictures of his text messages that were so threatening. And remember, this is just what the passengers of the airplane are telling each other, right? So we have this source here. You know, I have not seen this girl's ticket. She has not, you know, I don't know, whatever. So, but this gal claims to have been on the thing and tells a 7-minute story about what happened and the impression that everybody was under about this guy. Now, something a little bit more official is we have the air traffic control towers radio description of what's going on. It's about 50 seconds. It's over radio, so there's a little bit of you know, some silent periods, seconds, but just about 50 seconds here. And this was the official air traffic controller conversation between the plane and the tower.
Load.
What's the plan? Yes, I did. Just to be clear, is it suspicious item or suspicious passenger? Say again? Just to be clear, is it suspicious item or suspicious passenger? Suspicious passenger. Copy, I'm 0. Hey, this is the captain speaking to you. We've got one passenger that was just being very suspicious, acting, had a timer going off every 10 minutes, foreign languages, worried about his bags. So everybody got kind of comfortable, and we got a 25-year flight attendant back there who was not comfortable with it. So.
Okay, so it goes on, but that's kind of the information that we're looking for here as to what may have actually been going on. This is the captain talking to the tower. The tower, or the captain, says we have a suspicious passenger. He has alarms going off. He's speaking a different language. He's aggravated, something about his bag. And what I thought was interesting, for our purposes here, for analysis purposes, is he mentions we have a 25 year sort of veteran
flight attendant.
And I thought that was very interesting, because the thing you got to remember about flying is once you are up in the plane, it's like international waters. Like, you know,
it's a totalitarian metal tube that you are in. You are under a very scrutinous eyes.
It is all vibes, man. Everything about it is vibes. You got to remember too that even the method by which the you know, the stewardesses serve you things, the timing when they bring your drinks, the wording of the safety messages, the countenance of the flight attendants, this is all very highly regulated and sort of precisely programmed. It's social engineering. Basically, once you're in the plane, everything you experience is a practice in social engineering. And for the most part, they have it down pretty good. And when, you know, these flight attendants they don't just bring us drinks, right? They're a lot of things. What they are also is, kind of the first security system for these planes. And somebody who's been doing it 25 years, you can kind of hear it when the captain speaks. Like, you really trust the captain, the people working on the plane. They really trust sort of each other's vibes on this thing.
Right.
So, from what we can gather, both from a passenger who, admittedly got what she knows from other passengers, but also the pilot who got what he knows from the 25-year veteran flight attendant. There was a collection of things that this guy was doing, whether he's just being aggravated, whether he's being weird about his bag, whether he's setting timers or speaking in a different language. Look, that's a collection of things that they look out for, suspicious behavior in general, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to play another clip, a video from a different angle of heads down, hands up, and then we're going to check the community note on it. So let's hit that video.
Before, just real briefly before we go into that, our interview, I'm trying to find the name of the lady we interviewed about 9/11.
Yeah,
and
the
she
flight
wrote a whole. Yeah, she was a multi-year flight attendant, and it was her credibility with that sort of informed Rebecca Roth. This was here it is. Just pull it up real quick here. It's Canary Cry Radio episode 90, 9/11 Methodical Illusion with Rebecca Roth. And yes, her sort of credibility was based on the fact that she was a multi-year flight attendant. And of course, she was very suspicious about what happened with 9/11 based on her experience as a flight attendant. So just as a sort of reference point with the history of this type of thing.
Yeah,
And the consistency therein. So, okay, so this is back to the threat here, this video footage from within a different angle of the situation here.
You turn it up a little bit. You have the SWAT team coming in.
Yeah.
You have people keeping their head down, all their hands up.
Stand up.
You see the guy getting pulled out there.
They pull him out of his
Getting
seat.
cuffed. Okay, so that's the footage right there. That ends
So
right
there
there.
you go. And this repeating, this heads down, hands up, heads down, hands up. We saw in the first video, they use this phrase. I don't know if it was the captain or if it was another flight attendant or if it was a SWAT team member, the male voice that came over and said, here's what's going to happen. Your heads are down, your hands are up, heads down, hands up. I imagine many of those female voices that joined in were the flight attendants who, I guess, evidently have been trained to sort of repeat this alarming, almost hypnotic sort of phrase, heads down, hands up. And you see everybody in the plane dutifully
complying,
right? It's this very interesting thing. And not to bury the lead, I think that this phrase, heads down, hands up, is going to be a repeated and very important phrase coming into this next season that we're in here. We're very good at identifying these things, Gons, whether it's Build Back Better, whether it's Putin's puppet, whether it's
See something, say something was a big one after 9/11. Yeah.
Right.
I think World War II, it was loose lip sink ships. That was a big one from World War II. So yeah, these things really are effective in communicating the sort of scary moments like this, or perceived moments like this. If you're out in public, you hear that phrase, your mind is going to immediately go to, I am under threat. And of course, the heads, somebody in the chat here saying Psalm 40 saying worship. That is interesting.
Well,
head down, hands up. That is,
that's an interesting thing. And it's interesting. It hits you a little bit more when you see the video for those who are just listening, but head down, hands up it's kind of this, it kind of does look like a worship service a little bit.
Right.
But the other side of it is it's surrender.
It's surrender,
It's almost like this visceral pose of surrender, of harmlessness, of that kind of thing. So when you think about these phrases that get installed into the culture, and it starts out with a video, it starts out with an event, but then the news anchors repeat it, but then the politicians start saying it. Elbows up was a good example in Canada this last year. But I have a feeling that this heads down, hands up is going to be a big part of the season that we're moving into. And especially over this weekend, it's become clear that the kind of war on terror lurks in every neighborhood. They're amping up the sort of terror meter, cranking it up to 11 or orange, I guess, the color meter. So it's very possible that if things continue in the direction that they are, I think especially millennials and Gen Xers, we're going to feel very familiar feelings to 9/11. Now, just to complete some analysis here, if you look at the context, the reader's context, the community note on this video, and here's what it says. It says, passengers had their hands up because SWAT boarded, not because of the threat. The diversion happened after other passengers reported the man for praying in a foreign language and having a prayer timer on his phone. FBI found no credible threat and no charges were filed. Now, this community note shows up every time this video is posted. It doesn't matter what the post says, doesn't matter what, the person posting the video said about the video. Every time this video appears, this community note appears. And it starts out with a strange bit because, even if the person posting it didn't say anything about why they had their hands up or whatever, it starts out with passenger had their hands up because SWAT boarded, not because of the threat. So it's giving this impression that they weren't scared of a terrorist. That's not why they had their hands up and their head down. But they did it because the SWAT team came on. The jackbooted thugs came onto the plane, and so everybody put their hands up and their head down. It's kind of a weird reversal of what the threat actually was, where in the moment, at least the authorities thought that there could have been a threat from an individual. But the messaging here on X, the community note, is no, look at how scary, look at how terrified these people are of the SWAT team. They're not scared of terrorists. It goes on. The diversion happened, which is another weird word, diversion, after other passengers reported the man for praying in a foreign language and having a prayer timer on his phone. Now, we heard the report from the passenger and we heard it from the aircraft control tower. And while they mentioned he spoke in another language, he had timers going off, this gal mentions that he had text messages on his screen. She claims that there's pictures of those text messages, which I have searched so far. I cannot find any posts of the pictures of the text message, but who knows? Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't happen. But you go to the messaging of the thing, even on X, where, it's X. It's not necessarily the mainstream media. There's already this sort of twisty spin to kind of try to control the narrative of what exactly was happening, why exactly people were responding, and so on and so forth. And you go to that community note, and it opens up NBC5. Okay. NBC5. It's a local NBC station in Palm Beach. Says here, Fort Lauderdale bound Southwest airline flight diverted to Atlanta after passenger disturbance. Okay. The Southwest Airlines flight from Nashville. Yes. A passenger disturbance on board. Southwest Airlines flight 2094 departed Nashville. Yes, we know what happened there. The crew reported a disturbance. They landed in Atlanta. The FBI's Atlanta division and the Atlanta Police Department investigated and interviewed the person involved. The FBI said the passenger was speaking in his native language, but it was determined to be nothing threatening.
Okay.
So they interviewed the guy. They pulled him off, and they apparently asked him, "What were you saying?" And nobody else could understand him. So he must have said, "Nothing threatening." No credible threat was found. No charges will be filed, and the person will not be identified. So even
other than the video footage of him all over the internet.
Right. So
Okay.
the source for the community note, really all you hear about even what's alleged, they don't even say what anybody saw, what no passengers saw. They didn't report on anything the pilot or the stewardess saw or heard. They just report on the guy who had gotten taken out of the plane, said he was speaking in his native language, but was determined to be nothing threatening. And that's it. That's all they say.
So it's a
Now-
nothing burger. It's a big nothing burger, but the op is
So-
fear.
So you'll notice in this article, not a whole ton of specific sources. So I started searching around. Okay, well, that's weird. The pilot says one thing, the stewardess says another thing, the passengers say totally other things altogether. Where exactly did this? I mean, that community note thing is nothing. There's nothing there. It just says he was speaking in a language, but he didn't say anything mean. That's nothing. That's just like a dust in the wind as far as like what actually happened.
Good
here.
job, community. Nice work.
So I search again and I found NBC 6 South Florida. There's NBC 5 Florida. Here's NBC 6. Of course,
a different layer of the dimensions there. It's a different.
It's all NBC. And we're going to play the video at the top in a moment here, but it says the Southwest Airlines flight that was heading to Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport on Friday night was diverted to Georgia after the company called a passenger misunderstanding over a phone timer for Ramadan prayer. Okay, so now we have a passenger. It's a misunderstanding. He had a phone timer going for Ramadan prayer. We go down here. It says NBC News reported that the incident had to do with a passenger who set a timer on his phone so that he could pray for Ramadan, the holiest month of the Islamic calendar. Okay.
Okay, well, there's nothing there. I did a little digging because I knew this is where it was headed.
Well,
as far as I'm concerned,
I got a
okay,
thing.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I
No,
don't
I was
want
going
to
to say.
jump too far ahead, but what do you got?
Oh no, there's nothing in Islam, as far as I'm concerned, that there's no doctrine or anything that says you have to pray every 10 minutes. So there is a
Well, that is a
prayer
good
thing.
question.
Yeah.
That is a good question. Now, that is good. That's a good note to make, because it's not that NBC doesn't have access to any more details. They're just choosing to say this narrative that he was just had a timer for prayer for Ramadan. And the article here says NBC News reported that the incident had to do with a passenger who had set a timer on his phone so that he could pray for Ramadan, the holiest month of the Islamic calendar. And I say, okay, all right. So what's the source here? They're saying NBC News. Well, this is NBC News. I'm reading on NBC News.
So NBC News is implying from
It's
NBC
reporting.
News that
They're just sourcing themselves, okay?
Yeah,
Which
great.
I'm not satisfied with. You can't just source yourself to say that something happened. Well, and I dug around for way too long. This is the earliest article about anything talking about a timer for Ramadan, which is weird because it's sourcing from itself, but there's nothing earlier. So is it literally sourcing from the literal article that's doing the sourcing? Well, at the top of this article here, they have a quick little video. It's 43 seconds. Took me way too long to figure out that they were just sourcing it from their own video here. But here's what he had to say.
Now, a terrifying scare in the skies after a flight was diverted and a passenger detained. Take a look. You see all the passengers on board this flight holding their hands up in the air as officers removed a person from a Southwest flight Friday night. The plane was headed from Nashville to Fort Lauderdale, but stopped in Atlanta. Southwest later apologized in a statement, saying the situation was a misunderstanding of a customer's behavior. A source with knowledge tells NBC News the incident stemmed from a man who had set a timer on his phone to pray for Ramadan. An FBI Atlanta spokesperson says that there was no credible threat and no charges will be filed.
You know, I was thinking about this. Perhaps the alarm was going off for one of the 5 times you're supposed to pray for Ramadan, and then it just was on the snooze. So every 10 minutes it was going off.
I mean, maybe. I mean, that's the thing. NBC,
that's about it.
So that's it. NBC is sourcing their own thing. And you'll notice in the video that they sourced from, they said a person with knowledge. I mean, we've critiqued the changing journalistic standards on what sourcing means, who can you source from, anonymous sources, sources familiar with the matter, sources, in the room, stuff like this. This report literally just says sources with knowledge say he was praying for Ramadan with
any source could have knowledge. Anyone could have knowledge.
Does that
can be called
do the eyewitnesses do not have knowledge? They're not explaining the whole bag thing and the whatever. Maybe it's nothing. I don't know. But we're talking about the sort of the PsyOp aspect of it all. Now, the earliest mention of a timer, right? Okay, so NBC unsourced saying timer, timer, timer. He's praying for Ramadan, timer. The earliest mention of any timer I can find is KFOX 14, a local Fox station. And it says here, he's praying in a foreign language. Southwest passenger describes diverted flight. All right, one last one here. Sorry, don't mean to be so laborious here, but this is really important for how we're going to see the remaining stories over the weekend. I feel like this really sets the stage for the entire 5th generation warfare over the weekend. Passengers on Southwest Airlines flight from Nashville to Fort Lauderdale experienced tense moments Friday night after a man's behavior prompted the crew to divert the plane to Atlanta, where a tactical team then boarded and removed him. Then it's, let's see here. The flight, Southwest Airlines 2094, departed Nashville International Airport and was en route to Florida when passengers say a man began praying aloud while his cell phone alarm repeatedly sounded. The plane was diverted. Yes, okay. Oh, did they scrape this down? Atlanta International Airport, where law enforcement officers with guns drawn boarded the aircraft and escorted the man off. One passenger, a high school student from Williamson County, who asked that his name be kept private. So this is a different passenger, not the gal we saw in the video before, recorded the moments before the officers entered the cabin. Quote, "The man has a timer going off on his phone every 10 minutes, and he's praying in a foreign language," the passenger said. "He's sweating. He keeps asking the flight attendant where his bag is multiple times." A source within Southwest Airlines confirmed the man was praying aloud. So the source, again, we have sources from people who were there. This kid describes, again, he sounds like he is praying, sounds like he's praying in a foreign language, but he has a timer going off every 10 minutes. And if you add that with the rest of the man's behavior, sweating, getting agitated about his bag, blah, 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 you can see how in the vibocracy,
Current milieu as well, with the tensions going on geopolitically, it's a
Yeah.
perfect storm to really go after someone like this, or at least be suspicious and heighten the anxiety. Like you said, the vibes. He was a vibe killer.
the government by vibes, which is being in an airplane. It is a country ruled by vibes when you are flying. In the vibocracy that is being on this plane, NBC wants to tell you, no, he was just praying. Can you believe these racists, took this man off the plane for praying during Ramadan, these xenophobes? But then you hear the actual sourced material. All the like he was praying for Ramadan, no big deal, unsourced or sourced to themselves. Person with knowledge, totally non-journalistic sourcing.
Maybe their source is KFox, but they don't want to give credit to KFox. So there's, they had somebody within.
They also left out a lot. If they were sourced,
that's what I'm saying. It's the NBC. Some guy at the NBC office, looked up the Fox report and thought, well, we can't really source Fox. And we don't have direct contact with this Williamson County High School kid, so we'll just get credit our own guy. So we'll just credit our own thing.
Within about an hour, after passengers and crew members became uneasy over the man's behavior, the pilot decided to divert the flight to Atlanta. So this guy's timer, allegedly, is going off every 10 minutes for an hour while he's sweating, getting agitated, and praying out loud, which, look, whatever, pray out loud. But if you're a Muslim man,
when you're in a war with Iran and you're in a plane
and you're sweating and you're freaking out, and look, the story, but you can see here how the actual story from the sources is like, okay, look, it seems like in the vibocracy, this was the right move, right? It doesn't seem like an overreaction. It's only when you get to NBC and community notes that it's like, he was just praying for Ramadan, you xenophobe racists. Can you believe where our country is at? And it kind of matches what we see going on in the broader culture. And we've pointed this out for a couple months, where there's there's very powerful politicians, very powerful people in the country who recently have been flat out like, Islam is taking over the country. Watch out, sleeper cells. Is like, and it's so much and it's so big and it's like so blatant that you're kind of like, okay, guys, all right, okay, I get it. We're getting ready to go to war with Iran, and you need public support for war with I get it. But then, the two different dimensions happening at the same time. I think this Fox report and the stuff from the passengers and the radio tower, it seems like an all very understandable reaction, but it's the NBCs who are, trying to put a different spin on it, et cetera, et cetera.
I found it also interesting that the footage right there on X just shows the guy's face, but every mainstream outlet blurs out the guy's face. It's not as if you can go on the internet and find it in 2 seconds and look, see the guy's face. So
Trashman makes a really good point. Again, we're talking about the 5th generation warfare, the narrative war, the Psy war. Trashman mentions here, imagine the messaging to the Muslim community, quote, he was arrested for praying. That's
this is the odd.
NBC's putting out, right? Now, just real quick. Well, first of all, I'll say, as far as all reporting that we can trust for whatever that's worth, the FBI is not bringing charges, and they did not find any threats. And that's kind of the big thing to remember. The guy was totally like everything in all the evidence is like totally understandable that they did this, that they landed, the big hullabaloo. Okay, though, good. There was no threat. And I'll even say good. The guy wasn't trying to be threatening. And
Right.
good. It all worked out good. Like
Kind of
good.
settled itself, right? But now we have the optics and the trauma and the foundation for something bigger, or at least
And we
ongoing when
have
it comes to the tension in this country.
and we have the hypnotic chant in our heads. Heads down, hands up. Heads down.
Which
hands
even the guy on the mic had trouble. He accidentally said hands down.
I know.
And I think
don't feel
it's one of
bad
those things where you have to train yourself to say clearly heads down, hands up, because it's a tongue twister, so it's got its own operative linguistically, the linguistic programming going on.
Oh, totally. It's totally neo-linguistic programming. And just quick little debunker bunker here. There are a lot of people spreading a clip of a different event saying that this is flight 2094. If you want to play this quick clip so we can identify it, that in the Psy war, in the nonsense, here's some disinformation that people are, if you see anybody posting this video in connection with 2094, that's somebody who does not care about the truth or care about you, or they want to get you all hyped up for supporting a war in Iran.
Sit down. Don't move.
Don't move.
Don't move. That's very American right there. That sounds like a flight from Tennessee to Florida.
So I don't know if this is real or not. I mean, maybe it's AI, but you look around, it's definitely not an American airline. You can tell by how clean the plane is. Everybody's got
definitely not Southwest.
Yeah, so it's just nobody, there's no heads down, hands up. So just in case you're out there and you see an Allahu Akbar plane video, that is not 2094, and you should ignore it. So, like I said, to land that plane, if you will, thank God. Thank God there was no real threat. Okay? The messaging is a threat in my view of the world, in my view of things.
The messaging is much more dangerous than the actual event.
Exactly. The event, the reporting, the everything is much more dangerous than the event. Thank God there was no threat. However, that was not the only thing that happened over the weekend. Here's another one.
Wars and rumors of wars.
Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom. This comes from KNBC News 9, an ABC channel, local from Kansas City. Gotta love honestly, you have to take local channels nowadays. This is a big recommendation for everybody. If you're gonna be you can take the big national channels, just throw them in the garbage. But they all have local channels, and that's where you want to kind of pay more attention. But here's an ABC 9. Bomb threat at Kansas City airport leads to evacuation. Terminal cleared after investigation. So the first one was in a plane. This one's in an airplane. Everybody's getting triggered. Airport. Yeah, thank you. Airport says here, passengers and employees were evacuated from Kansas City International Airport for about 2 hours Sunday after authorities received a bomb threat involving the terminal and a parking garage. The Kansas City Aviation Department said it received a call Sunday morning reporting a potential device inside the airport terminal and in a parking garage. So this was an actual call claiming that a bomb was there. Airport police and other law enforcement agencies, along with the FBI, responded to investigate. As a precaution, airport officials evacuated the terminal and held inbound flights on the taxiway away from the gates while the investigation unfolded. A passenger at Kansas City International Airport said travelers were suddenly ordered to leave the terminal while waiting to board flights. Ryan O'Neill, told KMBC that an announcement over the airport speaker system told everyone to evacuate immediately, though no explanation was given at the time. Quote, "We were waiting to board our plane and all of a sudden came on the loudspeaker and said, 'We need everyone to evacuate immediately,'" O'Neill said. "They did not give us a reason why yet." O'Neill
Is there any
got
is there any footage of this? You'd imagine in the airport there's somebody had their,
Yeah,
Zoom call going or
yeah, you are on a text version of the up at the
No.
top of this article, there is a video that you can play.
Okay, let's see here.
And we start with that breaking news at 5. The Kansas City International Airport was evacuated due to potential threat. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jackson Kurtz. Travelers were sent out of the building onto the tarmac. KMBC9's Dennis Evans is live at KCI. And Dennis, part of the airport is still closed and travelers are still stuck.
Yes, Jackson, it has been and still is quite the day of travel here at KCI. It all began this morning at about 11:15 a.m. That is when authorities were made aware of what was described as a potential threat, and the airport terminals were cleared. And we're going to show you some video from earlier today. This is from one of the passengers who was forced to go out to the tarmac. Flights were delayed well over an hour. Traffic was stopped coming in and out of the airport. All of the garage and parking structures were shut down. Now, a spokesperson for the FBI said the threat was investigated and has been cleared and deemed not to be credible. Still, for the passengers traveling on this Sunday, the experience was nerve-wracking.
We were waiting to board our plane, and all of a sudden.
Okay, I was hoping for like the actual announcement over the intercoms there.
Yeah, they didn't show it. I didn't see any either. They have this guy who responds.
Does have the guy? Yeah. Okay.
If it's in their report, they probably blanked out his bad words, but you kind of get the ending there. Well, it says law enforcement officers, including canine units, were seen entering the airport terminal as authorities searched the buildings and surrounding areas. The FBI assisted in the investigation, and parking garages were also searched. While sweeping the parking garage, canine units flagged a vehicle on the top level as possibly suspicious. Kansas City police bomb and arson investigators were called to examine the vehicle, and the garage remained closed for several additional hours as a precaution. Authorities later determined the vehicle did not pose a threat.
Again, huh?
Again, Kash Patel says this, quote, "FBI and our law enforcement partners quickly responded to the scene and secured the area. The threat was received and determined not to be credible. Terminal has been swept, cleared, and normal operations resumed." So they called it a credible bomb threat, of course, until they search and find nothing, and then it's not credible, right? I think it's interesting. There even was, like, the dogs did tag a vehicle, but apparently that vehicle was fine. Maybe the guy just
maybe the dog was hungry. He smelled something else.
He left some hot dogs in his trunk or something. The dogs are going to flag that. So again, honestly, the fact that people's flights were only delayed 2 hours, like, seems pretty efficient, pretty expedient to me personally.
Tame.
You'd think it would like cancel the whole day or something, but okay, couple hours, moving people around. And so, but somebody still made a threat. Somebody called in, said there was a bomb, and then
probably Kash Patel.
Who knows?
We need good PR. We need some activity to show that we are still a good working force. The 6-week cycle. Got to keep it going.
Yeah. And so compare
good PR for the FBI.
Compare this to the last story.
Yeah.
Things are, you can only say it's not credible. Like, oh, you didn't need to shut the airport down. You can only do that afterwards. Similar with the guy in the plane, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he was praying for Ramadan, but look, all things considered, you're not going to just keep flying with this guy doing weird stuff.
Right.
And so again, good. Nothing happened. No real threat. Hallelujah. But kind of interesting that this fake, I don't even want to call it fake. It was a real bomb threat. The threat was real. Somebody calls you, says there's the threat's there. Thankfully, nothing real. Okay, so that's twice now, twice in a weekend. But then came New York City. And let's start with this. You know what? We're on a roll with the clips. Let's start with the CBS report.
Is this the one?
Yeah.
Are you looking at this one? Okay.
Investigating 2 men after an explosive device with bolts and screws was thrown into a crowd. It happened
Pause
in
it
New
real
York
quick.
Saturday.
People are a little irritated, and it makes sense because as this woman is saying, 2 explosive devices were thrown into a crowd. She has, the image next to her of a guy in a MAGA hat and a American flag and, a
Trump shirt.
supporter. Oh, somebody threw explosives into a crowd. Wink, wink. This Trump supporter right next to me. Keep that in mind as we continue.
Is investigating 2 men after an explosive device with bolts and screws was thrown into a crowd. It happened in New York City on Saturday during a protest that turned violent outside the mayor's official residence. CBS's Chanel Call is there with the very latest tonight. Chanel.
And Jarika, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, who is Muslim, was inside Gracie Mansion when a small anti-Islam protest took place here yesterday afternoon. A larger counter-protest then showed up, and police say 2 men who were part of that group brought those homemade devices.
Pause.
This
Okay. So she said there was a racist anti-Islam protest outside of the Muslim mayor's Gracie Mansion.
Yep.
Then some counter protesters showed up, and then someone from that group threw the things.
Yeah.
It's not very clear who she's saying threw the bombs.
Yeah.
Especially with the lead up and the imagery and the protesting and stuff. I mean, she's saying it right. Technically, it was the counter protesters, which were the
pro-Islam.
The pro-Islam group was the one that threw the bombs. But the way that she says it is not very clear. And if you're someone who just has this on in the background, or maybe the sound's off, and you're just seeing the words on the screen or something, closed captioning, you're not really going to know what's going on. But okay, continue.
Yeah. Let's go here.
is the moment a homemade bomb was ignited outside the New York City mayor's residence Saturday afternoon.
He threw a bomb? Did he throw a bomb, bro?
NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch says the device did not explode.
Now you can
but
pause
that
it there.
could have-
Okay.
Yeah, the device did not explode. We'll get into more of that in a second here. All right. And not going to do a whole big read through for you, but surprise, surprise, every major outlet does a really good job of being pretty ambiguous about who threw the bomb. AP News here, men who brought explosives to NYC protest. Oh, yeah, I love it. They changed the headline here, but here's the headline as it stands now. Men who brought explosives to NYC protests cited as Islamic State as inspiration, complaint says. Oh, that's great. Inspiration, okay. 2 men who brought explosives to far-right protest outside New York City's mayoral mansion said they were inspired by the Islamic State extreme group, according to criminal complaint. So 2 men brought the explosives to a far-right protest. Again,
it's justified. Justified work.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's the other point. I mean, the way that it reads to me reads like, oh, some far-right protesters brought explosives.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other side of it, yes. Even if you do know who threw the bombs, it's justified because it's far-right protest. Amir Balat, 18, and Ibrahim Kayumi, 19, were being held without bail after a court appearance Monday. Oh, yeah, they updated this whole thing on charges that include attempting to provide material support to foreign terrorist organization and using a weapon of mass destruction. Their lawyers didn't argue for bail, but could do so later.
Baal. It's Baal, okay? I'm just kidding. Continue.
I'm going to skip down real quick. We'll
Okay.
come back to the top. Oh, geez, they totally redid this whole thing. So the subheadlines: defense attorney highlights suspect's youth. Hey, that's his defense. He's young, okay? He's only 18. No ties to Iran were identified. Okay. Protesters arrested on unrelated charges. And now
Wait, what does your sorry, you said Attorney General highlights the case. That's the subheadline I have. What did you
No.
say?
So defense attorney highlights suspect's youth. That's what I'm saying. I think they've updated
So
this.
is yours updated or is mine?
I imagine mine's updated because
I opened it before the show started.
You
yeah.
opened it before the show, right? Let me see if I have a
interesting.
version that is no ties.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm just
Doesn't matter. But they go into this. I'm going to read the last one. Protesters arrested on unrelated charges. The scene had grown chaotic even before the devices were thrown. Okay,
okay.
It's not about just the bombs. Okay, things were chaotic. Police said one person involved in the anti-Islam demonstration, Ian McGinnis, 21, was arrested after he pepper sprayed counter-protesters. Why would somebody need to pepper spray a counter-protester? I don't know. McGinnis of Philadelphia was released without bond after pleading not guilty Sunday to assault and aggravated harassment in New York court. Records show his attorney, Stephen Metcalf, on Monday said McGinnis was defending himself from counter-protesters. 3 others were arrested but released without charge. Then they just say Lang, who's running for U.S. Senate in Florida, and who they're referring to is Jake Lang, but they don't. They're just saying Lang out of nowhere, who's running for U.S. Senate in Florida, was charged with assaulting an officer and other offenses during the Jan 6 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. He was later freed from prison as part of President Donald Trump's sweeping act of clemency. While
they do mention Jake Lang in the first 3 paragraphs.
It's earlier up.
Yeah, there is.
Where do they mention him?
It's in the 3rd paragraph. It says Homeland devices did not explode. Anti-demonstration led by Jake Lang, a far-right activist and critic of New York Mayor Zohan.
There it is.
A Democrat and the first Muslim to hold off. Oh yeah, that's Mamdani's a Democrat, not Jake Lang. Okay, continue.
So let's take a look at this. So the media in general is, they're doing what they're doing, and they're doing it very well, which is, hey, look, we'll start by, some bombs were thrown, and it was Jake Lang. It was a far-right anti-Islamic protest, and some bombs were thrown, and that's bad, but he was at Jan 6, and But, okay. Here's a great view of and now remember, we're just talking messaging. We're talking 5th generation warfare here. Here's a great clip of one of the pro-Islamic protesters on a bullhorn, supporting Iran or something. Listen to the words. Go to the next clip. The clip.
Not this clip?
I don't know. You don't have a clip up on screen.
Oh, sorry. Hold on 1 second. This one here?
That's the one. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a pro-Islamic
This is a pro-Islamic protester with his bullhorn here, and we'll get to see the moment the bombs were thrown.
Okay.
Everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else. Yo, this nigga threw a bomb, bro. Yo, he threw a bomb. Yo, did he throw a bomb, bro? That shit stinks. That shit stinks. Yo, did he just throw a Allah Akbar bomb, bro? Yo, that shit stinks.
Yeah, there's a couple of expletives in there.
But
Did he throw an Allah Akbar bomb, bro? Is that what just happened, bro?
The guy with the bullhorn was literally saying, we're New Yorkers. We get to say who stays in New York. We don't want to let outsiders come in and tell us Allahu Akbar. The guy runs up behind him, for those who are just listening, uses the man speaking as a a jumping
leverage,
jack.
like a pommel horse.
He puts his
like
hands
pushes over his shoulders to
on
throw
his
the
shoulder and jumps up in the air, and you see the smoking bomb in his hands whizzing behind him, throws it over the protester. You can't see where it goes on this video, and there's a reason for that, and I'll get to it in a second. And then everybody's
Runs
like,
off.
did he just throw a bomb? Did he just? And you hear the pro-Islamic protesters go, nice. That was sick. Like total support in the pro-Islamic protesters section that this guy just threw a bomb over their protest towards the counter protesters. Now, this was the video that all the news used. And I think it's specifically because you cannot see what he's throwing the bomb at. All right. Now, in all the reporting, what they will say is he threw the bomb at the police, to say that the ISIS radical threw the bomb at the police. But Jake Lang was there and had another angle of the incident. Let's play that. We'll play up to second 28.
Support white liberal women. Support the white liberal women. They're killing you. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
Okay,
Right
so
right,
they're running away from something. You heard the pop there, and yeah, they're
Yeah, so you had about
Right on.
12 guys. It's probably just Jake Lang's crew who came to do this. Interesting note, there's all the barriers already up for a
right. They're
protest.
divided. Yeah, interesting.
And so everybody's divided in their own thing. I'm wondering if this was like a licensed protest, like an on the books march kind of thing. Because all the police barriers are already up. There's about 12 guys with American flags. And, they're being their right-wing cool guy thing, deport liberal women, this kind of stuff. And then you could see the
they
moment.
hear a pop or something. They see something land.
Yeah. They spot the bomb flying through the air, and then you hear a pop or a bang or something, and then they just turn into chaos and they run.
They run away.
They run and they run and they run. Now, we've been kind of identifying the religious war. I'm not saying the spiritual war, right? I'm talking the religious war, where the media, the online media, the politicians, Lindsey Graham, they're all trying to not just say there's a spiritual war going on, but that there's a religious war. And in this same video with Jake Lang, who came to do this, who is prepared to catch whatever happens, who is thriving both, emotionally and probably financially from pulling stunts like this. He's pulling a lot of stunts, and they're all very, intense.
Yes.
This is his response after he ran about a block away. He feels he is safe from the bomb. And
this is the same footage, just later in the clip. And this is off of Jake Lang's official account on X as well. So this is he's posting this.
Jesus is King. Thank you, Lord God. Thank you, Lord God. What just happened? Thank you, Lord God. They threw a nail bomb at us and it didn't explode because Jesus is still on the throne of my life. Thank you, Jesus. They just threw another one. They're going to get the goat. Someone's got to get the goat. Oh, the goat. Someone's got to
They
get
have
the
a
goat.
goat.
Take care of it.
There's a goat.
They have a goat with
There's a
them. It's the whole thing. Okay?
Somebody get the goat.
Somebody get the goat. The goat's going to be fine.
Oh,
so there, and you look at this part of the messaging here, right? I mean, look, God did save them from getting blown up by this nail bomb. I mean, that would be my experience being there. That's quite possibly what happened if this was, a real bomb, if this was a real thing. Like the fact that they are breathing at that moment that's what God's protection's all about, man. And, in the footage of this very intense news item and very widely reported news item, you read the news, you can't tell who to throw the bomb. It's a whole thing. Oh, they're racist anyways. They would say the same thing about Charlie Kirk. Oh, well, he was racist anyways. But in this case, bomb didn't go off. And we have this, admittedly, I don't even want to I don't know.
I think in the moment, I think many of us would feel the same way if we're standing there.
This is a totally real reaction.
Given the Charlie Kirk situation that everyone saw, you can tell Jake Lang's emotional here. He's not just acting or something. He has a reaction here, an emotional reaction. So I'm not going to bang the guy for just having this reaction, but also, yes, it is conveniently feeding into this religious war that is being stoked, especially in this country right now. So it's been the theme here of today's show, which is that they are stoking this on both sides. They're getting the Muslims to get to, much like post 9/11, but maybe in a more boots on the ground type of tactical way. Of course, a lot of what was presented after 9/11 came from the news media, and then showing the towers go down over and over again, showing a picture of bin Laden and that kind of thing. With the internet age, you need these individuals that are trying to climb the political ranks to have these types of experiences to double down on their messaging, which does have a religious flavor to it.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Now, just to kind of, there's this one last angle, and again, coming from a media perspective, the angles on this are incredible.
There's so many good ones.
So many good angles. You've got every angle you need to tell any story you want. This was the actual angle that the guy with the bullhorn, this is his personal, not his POV, but he was being filmed directly from the front, and the audio is much better. So you can hear, again, he's saying, hey, we're New Yorkers. You don't come here and tell us. And then it happened. It's just a great angle. We can't let it go.
And we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else. And we want...
You can't really hear the Allahu Akbar on this one as well.
No, you can't hear it as much.
But you can, the irony of the whole thing.
We want everyone here to stay in New York. You can't come from the outside and Allahu Akbar. The irony is just so insane. It's too much.
Yeah.
And the irony is even more insane because these two gentlemen who threw the bombs, they were later caught very easily by the NYPD. Really good job.
Yes.
Tackled them, got them. That is when we're going to listen to this Jessica Tisch line here in a second. But they're from Pennsylvania. They live with their parents in Pennsylvania, so not in New York City. So maybe this bullhorn man wouldn't. Now, just real quick, Mayor Zoran Mamdani's response on X here will not surprise anybody. Again, listen to exactly how this is being presented by Mayor Zoran Mamdani. Yesterday, white supremacist Jake Lang organized a protest outside Gracie Mansion rooted in bigotry and racism. Such hate has no place in New York City. It is an affront to our city's values and the unity that defines who we are. What followed was even more disturbing. Violence at a protest is never acceptable. The attempt to use an explosive device and hurt others is not only criminal, it is reprehensible and the antithesis of who we are. I want to thank the brave men and women of the NYPD who acted quickly to keep New Yorkers safe. Our officers ran towards danger without hesitation, demonstrating once again the courage and dedication it takes to protect the city every single day. My administration is closely monitoring the situation, and I remain close contact with our police commissioner. Again, look, whether on purpose or not, he has later come out and admitted that it was, pro-ISIS or he doesn't call them Muslim. He never calls.
Right. It's always the radical groups that the intelligence agencies have fabricated. Those are the people that are actually getting the credit.
But in his first response, the white supremacist Jake Lang organized protests, and bigotry and racism has no place here. And the attempt to use an explosive device and hurt others is not only criminal, it's reprehensible. No rhetorical distinction between the white supremacist, bigotry,
Right.
racism,
Yeah.
Jake Lang, and who threw the bomb. He doesn't even mention who threw the bomb. He doesn't even mention that anyone threw the bomb. It's just the attempt to use an explosive device. So not surprising, but really, just like too much, man. Like what?
Yeah.
Like how do you? I guess
his response started with yesterday, white supremacist Jake Lang organized protest. So it's like even the context of the messaging starts off with pushing back against Jake Lang, which means it's a political message. If you're
There's
not
going to be millions of Americans who will always remember. They will all 5-10 years ago or from now. Actually, they all have very short memories, but they will forever think that Jake Lang threw explosives at Grace Mansion to try to assassinate Zoran Mamdani.
That is crazy.
All right, I'm looking at the time here, so I'm just going to give you the just a few rest of the details here. It's a 2-minute video. Let's play the second Jessica Tisch. The Jessica Tisch is an interesting one to show up on this, because if you remember, Jessica Tisch is the sort of elite billionaire class technocrat who Zoran Mamdani kept in charge of the police commissioner position for New York, even though it goes against everything that he lied about on the campaign trail. Obviously, one of the conditions of his election was that he was going to keep the billionaire technocrat in charge of the surveillance state there in New York. But this is her giving some details here.
Hold on, where's this?
Qayyumi said in recorded post-arrest statements that he had watched ISIS propaganda on his phone and that his actions that day were partly inspired by ISIS. The complaint also details statements made by Amir Balat after his arrest. En route to the NYPD precinct, Balat made spontaneous statements without being questioned by NYPD officers that were captured on body-worn camera footage. He said, "This isn't a religion that just stands when people talk about the blessed name of the prophet. We take action, as well as, if I didn't do it, someone else will come and do it." And later, after waiving his rights, he requested paper and wrote a message declaring in part, "I pledge my allegiance to the Islamic State. Die in your rage, you kuffar." Now, "die in your rage" is a commonly known ISIS slogan, and kuffar is an Arabic term that refers to non-believers.
Now,
good.
The explosives in another clip, I'll just give you the details, were made with a explosive called TATP, which is a very explosive substance that one can make, without being in a laboratory. But they're very clear that the bombs were real. She says our bomb experts, they discovered it was TATP. They didn't go off, but they're real bombs and they're really scary. And this was really bad and all this kind of stuff. But the bombs didn't go off. By the way, both of them didn't go off. He threw one at Jake Lang, and then as he's escaping, he lights another one and throws it at police who are chasing him. That one also doesn't go off. So Jesus protected both Jake Lang and those police officers from these explosions. There's also another complicating factor, which is we know how our intelligence agencies work. And we know on record that they make a habit of radicalizing people, setting up either stings or operations to teach them how to make bombs. In the best case scenarios, they tell them how to make bombs incorrectly, so the bombs don't actually go off. And it's usually done in the name of some CIA, project like ISIS or something like that. So is it very possible that our own intelligence agencies, no matter which agency, radicalized these guys or found them radicalized and got them to make these bombs, told them how to make the bombs, but, guided them, gave them the instructions in a way that wouldn't make the bombs effective. That's very possible. It's also possible that it's, a legit ISIS radicalization, which is not too different from the previous situation I explained. But we have this theme now over the weekend of really high stakes, intense threats, bomb threats, whether they're literally coming in over the phone, whether they're literal bombs being thrown, or whether it's a fella setting timer after timer after timer on an airplane. But yet all three of them caused no damage. And
we got to hand it to at least they're keeping everyone safe physically. Okay. I mean, they could have easily just wanted to blow everybody up. So at least, it's like, hey, we get the threat, we get the fear, we get all the psychological trauma and,
and you
anxiety.
don't actually have to kill anybody. Nobody actually has to die. Yeah. No actual damage needs to be done. But you get the psychological and the social engineering effect of three almost simultaneous bomb threats related to Islam. All three of them,
Yeah.
So, the PsyOps are in overdrive right now.
Yeah,
Heads down, hands up, heads down, hands up, everybody. It's, and of course, this came immediately after Hegseth said we're prepared for sleeper cells, and immediately before this morning when we got the headline that Iran sends out suspected operational trigger to activate sleeper cells abroad back on February 28th. So the sequence of events, the conclusion of events, and the sequence of messaging coming about sleeper cells, and the message has gone out, is really incredible to see when you have an eye, when the veil has fallen away and you have an eye for PsyOps and social engineering. Somebody's getting a raise after this weekend.
I just noticed, speaking of paying attention to the necklace around Mrs. Tish there. Interesting messaging going on.
Israel with her jewelry.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Real quick, just to kind of put a bow on top of this, because ultimately a large portion of the American voter are Christians, suspectedly. I mean, at least Republican voting bloc. And, a lot of the people that support the current war and all this kind of stuff, they seem to fall into more of a particular brand of Christian eschatology. And I saw this hit my timeline yesterday. I just want to kind of wrap up this talk here. And this is what the post said. One of the largest targeted groups for mass PSYOP operations is evangelical Christians. Government and intelligence agencies know they stand in the way of total state control. If they can be deceived by a mass PSYOP, that in parentheses, that the controllers are really one of them, they will follow blindly into tyranny. Now, do you agree with this statement, Basil, in large?
I suppose, yeah.
Okay. This was stated by Kevin Shipp, former CIA officer. CIA officer telling everybody, which, by the way, in his bio, it says former CIA officer, espionage investigator, HumeNet collector, author of Twilight of the Shadow Government, How Transparency Will Kill the Deep State. Interestingly enough, we have a great piece of art from Anon about transparency in the deep state. When you have a former CIA officer saying how the largest targeted group for mass PSYOP are evangelical Christians, that itself is a PSYOP.
Yeah, totally.
Really confusing for a lot of people. I think that it's shows like ours that are trying to keep tabs on all this and keep things straight. So,
but it's a good reminder. I think a lot of Christians, especially right now, we got to know we are the most targeted. It's clear.
I know.
It is
super clear.
Absolutely clear that if you're a Christian in America, you're the utmost targeted when it comes to PsyOps. And that's when you really have to rely on the Holy Spirit in you to guide you through these things, and to rely on God for how to react, how to feel, what to think, because you, dear Christian, are the most targeted person for these PsyOps. So we need to be more diligent than we've ever been in our entire lives. You are experiencing being targeted by PsyOps in a fashion, in a frequency, to a degree that you have never experienced before. And that's, we got to keep that in mind. It's just, I'm not going to lie. I've heard from some Christians recently that say a series of things that make me just go, how do you not see this? How do you not see? Even if whatever, maybe we won't know exactly what's real or what's not real or what's true or what's psyop, until we get to heaven. That's possible. But knowing that this is the case, we really need to be calling into question our own judgment, our own understanding. We need to really rely on the Holy Spirit for these things, because the situation is dire enough that they obviously were, Christians are such an important target for a really important reason. And like we used to say a lot and haven't said a whole lot recently, with each of these events, with each of these opinions, with each of these stories, you really got to take captive your own mind and really ask God, like, who's pulling my strings here? Whose plan am I serving? Who benefits from me being so certain about one thing or another? And really, ask yourself or ask God really to reveal that to you. It's the best thing you can do.
Yep. And we appreciate people like Dr. Future, who showed us all the stuff about the psychological strategy board that was created in the 1950s. And I had a big long post about that yesterday, talking about the pattern, truly what they're doing right now with stoking Christians and even stoking Muslims in this country too, for some kind of holy war and divide and conquer methodology. A lot of it is the same tactics that they used back in the 50s, but just kind of supercharged and decentralized in a way that they didn't have back then. So, just keep in mind that this is all, God's got sovereignty. He's got things under control. So we know that, that it's all under his provision, but also, at the very sort of everyday level, it's easy to get carried away. It's easy to get politically sucked into the system and support things that, or rationalize, I guess, certain things that you otherwise wouldn't if you're trying to stick to the principles of Christ. So, we're all kind of guilty of that in our own ways and different things. But I think just in the greater picture,
we can especially get caught up in opinions and niches when it's what we perceive other Christians to be believing. That sort of tribalism can kind of kick in. It's like, well, all these Christians think this, so I do, because that's what a Christian thinks. Look at all these Christians, they think it, and so therefore I think it.
Real quick, just this one story.
Last mention here. We've talked about the brain organoids before. We're vastly aware, everybody on this show, that they now are literally making computer chips out of human brain cells. We've talked about in the past, you can actually buy them if you want, or you can rent them, where it's a computer chip that is constructed with human brain cells. It is a more or less human brain. And we've talked about in the past where, they're pretty competent at doing computation. They're pretty good computers, these human brains. But what was horrifying about them is the researchers discovered that when they did not give these human brain computers something to computate, they would die. They would go crazy. Yeah, they would go crazy, and then they would just die and they'd be useless. So they had to give these computers basically a screensaver. More terrifyingly, they gave the human brain computers a simulation to live in. So when they weren't working, they thought that they were a butterfly. They ran a simulation that they are a butterfly and that they just kind of float around in this little simulation, go flower to flower, flower to flower, so that they wouldn't go totally insane until the next time, the researchers used the computer. Well, they're stepping that up a little bit, Gons.
Speaking of the beast system, beast system.
Yeah, Futurism.com with the headline, researchers get human brain cells running Doom. And this is Cortical Labs, which we have covered. This was the company that we covered as this was developing. It talks about in 2022, this Australian biotech startup, Cortical Labs, made a big splash. We talked about this when they reported on this, the mini brains and, playing Pong, all the stuff you just summarized there. Well, now they say that they figured out a way to play Doom. The quote here is, Doom was much more complex. He added, it's 3D, it has enemies, it needs to explore, it's an environment, and it's hard. And it says here, to adapt to the 33-year-old video game, Basil. Imagine that. Why? What kind of, it wouldn't be an operative if it wasn't, trying to play a brain organ. It wasn't trying to play a 33-year-old video game here.
Yeah.
33 is the number of completion of the great work.
And the whole video game is about destroying demons and like killing demons.
It's not even that, Doom is really funny. It was like the original game that Christian mothers wouldn't let their children play.
Right.
It's really old, so the graphics are really bad, but the whole thing is that you go down to hell and you use a shotgun to blow the brains out of demons and stuff like this. It's really intense. But now these computers, they don't need to. Now they're not just pretending to be a butterfly. Their simulation
playing Pong
isn't just a butterfly simulation. Now they're going around killing demons in their spare time.
Yeah, it says, quote, right now the cells play a lot like a beginner who's never seen a computer, he says. And in all fairness, they haven't. But they show evidence that they can seek out enemies. They can shoot. They can spin. I mean, what else do you need to do to destroy demons in the virtual world? You just gotta identify enemies, shoot, and spin. It's pretty much all of it. How much of a breakthrough the demo represents isn't as straightforward as you might think, since computer chips don't really compare to human brains. Quote, yes, it's alive, and yes, it's biological, but really what it is being used as is a material that can process information in very special ways that we can't recreate in silicon. So
I don't think that's as reassuring as they think it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it's alive. Yes, it's biological. But, it's the human brain. It's used to process information in a way that chips don't. Yeah, we're aware. We're aware that a human brain does, processes information different than a chip. That doesn't make this any less creepy. I mean, it is, they have all sorts of reasons for doing this, but the reality is this is the practical application of the Matrix. It is a literal practical application of the Matrix. They are growing human brains, using those human brains for computation, and when they're not using them, they put them in a simulation to make them think. I mean, and think from the brain perspective, it's like, it's not that the brain is playing a video game. That's just like the brain's reality. It is living in a reality where it's in hell shooting demons.
This is organic material enslavement, like organic enslavement in a sense. You're trapped in this machine. It's really hilarious. A couple quotes here at the end. Gamers, meanwhile, were taken aback by the demo. Quote, I know this is a technical achievement far greater than anything I will achieve, but I gotta admit, something about this feels wrong to me. One Reddit user said, when Reddit users, when their moral compass goes off, like something feels wrong,
That's
you know it's a big deal. Others made light of the matter. Quote, what's the big deal? My brain cells play Doom as well. Another muse. So you get the whole gamut of range of a reaction there. But there you go. That's we saw everybody freaking out about this, and this is like water under the bridge for us. And by the way, just real quick, Canary Cry 003, Technocalypse and Obamacare eugenics. We talked about brain cells and brain matter on chips in this episode, because the film Technocalypse, which you can't find anymore, I tried to look for it. It's really hard to. If anyone can find the film, please do. It's a tough one dig up. But yeah, this one showed a lot of different things that we were compelled to watch. It was like an early 2000s documentary. It's the one where it showed cats, how the cats see cat faces on all human faces and stuff like that.
Yeah,
all
cats
the interesting
think
things.
humans are cats.
They're walking cats, yeah. Anyway, there you go.
If anybody finds that, you should send it to Guns, because we can't find
please send it to me.
All right. Well, again, we can't do this show without our producers coming in with their time, their talent, their treasure. We have some producers who came in under the executive producer amount. I want to thank them very much. Remember, if you want to produce the show cannot and does not exist without the regular producing of our producers. And so if it's been a while since you produced, if you've been getting value, we know things are crazy out there. We understand it. We are with you. But our ability to keep something going without the interference of corporate money, without the mind control advertising industry, without permission from any corporation, really is a miracle. And we pray that the Lord blesses all of our producers who help us make it happen. You can go to canarycry.support to learn all about it and produce the show there. A handful of producers coming in. We have producer Rebecca T is back.
Hey, Rebecca T, thank you.
Yeah, she's on a 4-episode streak. Rebecca T.
A streak.
And she comes in with 3456, 3456. That's very fun.
Very good.
Next up, we got producer Laura H comes in, supports the show. Laura H, nice round number. Thank you, Laura H. And Sir Darren, Night of the Hungry Panda, comes in for a pocket full of 7s plus fees. Thank you, Sir Darren.
Thank you, Sir Darren.
He came in on Thursday after Canary Cry Clubhouse, which was a very special. It was a really good Canary Cry Clubhouse. You know, especially if you're someone out there who likes to send us emails and say that we don't give the gospel on CCNT often enough for your liking. That probably means you're not listening to Canary Cry Clubhouse. Canary Cry Clubhouse specifically is where we really have an incredible fellowship with the brethren and the sistren. And if you're sitting there going, why don't they give the gospel more on Canary Cry News Talk? A, we got all sorts of stuff going on. The gospel is all over it. But B, listen to Canary Cry Clubhouse. You're going to love it. Really special things going on over there. And thank you, Sir Darren. He sent a note that says, "You're a saint, Basil." Thank you. And of course, Cage Rattler Coffee. Don't forget to go to cagerattlercoffee.com, folks.
Yep.
And we have some producers coming in under $7.77, which we will thank on Wednesday because they're keeping their streaks going. And other than that, we have some amazing producers keeping the show going, like the Time Stampers.
Before we do that, real quick, Anon came in with a piece of art that I'd like to share real quick. And this is a two cells, I guess, piece of art, kind of like a political cartoon. It's the picture of the White House there. And there's a speech bubble to the left that says, "They want transparency, we'll give them transparency." And then a speech bubble to the right, "Air out the dirty laundry." And then it shows the obelisk and the White House. There's a rope between the tips. And across the rope, it says Epstein Files. And there's a bunch of stank coming off of it. And it says New World Odor.
Yeah, it says the laundry line between the obelisk and the White House there. It says Epstein Files. New World Odor is very good. And Ianon did a great job making sure we understood that that was not a typo. It really was New World Odor.
Yeah,
that's a good little phrase. We got to remember that. New World Odor.
I feel like we talked about it before. By the way, I did run this piece of art through AI just for your just interest. I did create a color version of this that makes it pop a little bit more, which was fun.
So poppy.
Yeah, there you go.
So
thank you very much, Ianon.
Defile it with the AI. Very good.
Yes, yes.
And anybody who has any talent with their whether it's music or jingles or art, whatever, you can go to canarycry.art, upload it there, and we will feature it on the show, feature it in the emails, etc., etc. Really want to give our artists some encouragement to make some stuff for the show because we use it all the time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Now we can do timestampers.
Timestamp. It's hard work. Timestamp.
And I believe for the last episode 920, we had Jade Bouncerson do the timestamps. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And of course, a big thank you to Jam, who heads up the Telegram channel. Adam42 heads up the Discord channel. If you're not in those communities, what are you waiting for? Go to canarycry.party. You'll see the invite links for the Telegram and the Discord. Go join the Canarians there. Thank you to Joe for the feedback. Thank you to Clink for clinking. And thank you, Sir Ike, for all the things you do for us. And a reminder to leave a rating and a review. Screen capture your rating and review and email that to canarycrysupplydrop@gmail.com for a very good chance to win just a bunch of cool stuff from the supply drop. Thank you, Sir Ike.
Yep.
And other than that, share the show. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with anybody you know who needs sanity. Share it with a Christian who needs reminding that they are the most targeted for PsyOps in today's day and age. There's a lot, even just the whole everything is targeting the Christians right now. And we hope that this is a place where they can realize that and lean in a little bit more to the logos, not the logic. Logos, not the logic. But we call it rattling cages. And all you got to do is walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted. I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Guns, you got any last words?
Yeah, looks like there was a bright white flash reported from Tehran as about an hour ago. So hopefully that was a whole bunch of people.
Somebody left their flash on when they were taking a selfie.
Maybe.
Those iPhone flashes, man, they're serious. You accidentally leave the flash on, it can be really embarrassing.
Yeah, it could be maybe like the Men in Black flash. You know, you forget what you were doing.
Oh yeah, that's probably what it was.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody.
There you go.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage. Here's a cat.
Kitty, look at the kitty. Such a cute kitty.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people zoo.
I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
I want to shake things up. I want to shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
Toilets!
I love the Great Reset. Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Canary!